I'm pleased I get to welcome Meda DeWitt back to the mic.
Excellent. Thank you, Michelle. And so Alaska, like we were talking about, and we keep reiterating, is an extraordinary large space. If you look at this over the United States, you can see that even if Texas was cut in half, or Alaska was cut in half, Texas would still be the third largest state. So not only that, but we have a diverse ecoregions. So we have tundra, we have Arctic transition zones, boreal forests, subarctic tundra, temperate coastal rainforests, and temperate coastal meadows. And diversity is not something that's a detractor, but it's a valued part of who we are and our strengths. And it's also Alaska who makes the United States an Arctic country, right? Part of that change in thinking that Aaron set forth in the beginning. We're in the middle of everything. So not only in the shipping lanes, but we also have the 5th busiest airport in international airport in the world. And so we're a key player in meeting goals, the Paris Climate Accord 30 by 30 and the Thrive Agenda. Oh, change please, Aaron. So our diversity is also shown by the amount of tribes Jackie spoke so eloquently about earlier. We have 229 tribes out of the 567 registered tribes in the United States. And we have multiple different languages and people who are part of our entire community. So unlike the lower 48, we do not have reservations. We actually have one area that's classified as a reservation, but in Metlakatla, they like to consider it more of a reserve. So our communities are integrated. And so when we start talking about public health, we start looking at one of the, oh, Erin, please go next. There we go. Climate change is the biggest health threat that we will see in our lifetime. As Michelle just mentioned, we have COVID and we've seen the effects of COVID, and we're actually, with climate change, anticipating that there will be more pandemics. And a significant factor in our response to COVID is our air quality, is our nutrient levels in our body, is our baseline sleep and stress that we carry. And those actually make a difference in how we're able to respond and transition through these health events. Go ahead and next. So science is catching up with what our elders have told us. I said that, in the beginning, our elders have stories even pre-contact of what was coming and what we will be dealing with. And according to Wilson Justin, who's one of our beloved elders that we work with on a regular basis, climate change started at contact because that's when our relationship with the environment went out of balance. And because we do not live independently of the environment, then it also puts us out of balance. We could talk about the health we had here in the past that takes longer than 3.5 minutes. So how climate change affects our people. Next, please. Erin, thank you. So solastalgia is also known as climate grief, and it's one of the things that Indigenous people have been dealing with since contact, because we were transitioned out of many of our homelands and into places that we had to adjust and live on reservations in the lower 48 or adjust where we live up here in the state. And this is only intensified by the changing climate. We have our communities rely on ice and frozen rivers and ice to transition between communities, right? Receiving food and goods and travel. So it used to be 40 years ago, we had 9 months of freeze up and a couple weeks of breakup. 9 months of winter with a couple weeks of freeze up and a couple weeks of breakup, and only about 3 months of summer. And we've transitioned into the extension of our summers and more freeze thaw cycles in the winters. So what this has done is decreased food security, damaged infrastructure. We have the economic costs that a lot of times nobody knows how to cover. We have challenge in our water quality and storm events that we are currently losing communities into the ocean as we speak. with 80% of our communities going to be affected in some way by climate change. We also have reduced air quality and compromised homeland security. Next, please. So what they've looked at or found in the research in solesthesia and climate grief is action feels better than anxiety, which I think we can all relate to within this last year of working with COVID. Next, please. So our traditional stories have taught us about this time. Our world is on the verge of societal and environmental collapse. We are faced with options of collectively transforming or collectively going extinct. Our elders have taught us that there's no going back. These stories lay out actions necessary to survive and eventually thrive. We have to, like I said in the beginning, protect each other and protect the land, and that's how we move forward. They also talk about the use of plants and plant medicine and how by bringing together these two worlds of technology and traditional ecological knowledge and our plant sciences, we will find the keys necessary to ensure a healthy future. Next, please. So a few things that we can do now is partner with existing tribal health systems to implement rapid response actions to climate change. For those of you who aren't familiar, we have the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium, and they provide services throughout the state, and it's in-clinic services as well as community and environmental services. And because we have high diversity and mixed communities, many of our tribal services actually provide benefits to Alaska Native people and non-Native people. And this is important to remember that this infrastructure already exists, and it's something that we can access easily to address this. Next, please. So honoring Indigenous tribal sovereignty and engaging us in land management. So as Erin said in the beginning, about 56% of our land is owned by the federal government. And since our tribes have nation-to-nation governmental agreements, then we can actually engage in co-management and Indigenous management systems. It is imperative that the administration and Congress respects the cultural, spiritual values of our Indigenous people. Our subsistence rights, which subsistence means our way of life, right? Our way of being, must include access, use, management, conservation of the land under protections of Title VIII of ANILCA. So it's essential to our cultural and spiritual values of our region's Indigenous communities, and it will secure a bright future for Alaskans and for our entire nation. Next, please. And we're adapting for the long term. This isn't something that we are going to address in 1 year and it's going away. This is something that we have to transition as a human race into fundamentally knowledge, STEM, and trades as core curriculum in our schools, right? Federal mandate to implement local traditional ecological knowledge, STEM, and trades as core curriculum in all U.S. schools for all of our children. And this will build the understanding of natural systems, how to adapt, and core skills to successfully thrive as a whole population, as a whole nation together. Ganesh Chish.